The envelope comes back. Again, you hold it. You already know what's inside before you open it. You've developed a sense for these things now, a kind of dark intuition that you didn't ask for and can't shake. No, not this time, not you. Try elsewhere. You set it down on the table next to the others. There are dozens of them, stacked. Some opened carefully, some torn in frustration. Some you stopped opening at all, because what's the point of ceremony when the answer never changes? 100 times, not 10, not 25, not a number that sounds romantic in retrospect. 100 times something looked at what you built, what you wrote, what you created, what you were, and said no. And here is the thing nobody talks about. The thing that gets buried under the comeback story, under the applause, under the headline. It wasn't the 100th rejection that nearly destroyed you. It was the quiet Tuesday after it. The morning you woke up and didn't know if there was a reason to try again. That Tuesday, that silence. That's where we begin. You didn't start this journey expecting failure. Nobody does. You came into it with something real. An idea that lived in your chest before it lived on paper. A vision that woke you up at strange hours and wouldn't let you sleep until you'd written it down, sketched it out, spoken it into the dark. You believed in it. That's the part that makes the descent so savage, not arrogance, belief. There's a difference and it matters. Arrogance is loud, it fills rooms. Belief is quieter. It sits with you at 3 a.m. when the work is hard and tells you to keep going. You kept going. The first rejection stings, the second makes you revise, the third makes you wonder. By the 15th, you've rewritten everything twice. By the 30th, you're questioning the foundation, not just what you built up, but why you built it. Whether the instinct that drove you here was trustworthy at all. You start shrinking the dream, not consciously, not all at once. You trim it, you make it more palatable, more digestible for people who haven't seen what you see. You sand down the edges that made it yours because you've been told in 100 different diplomatic languages that those edges are the problem. They aren't, by the way, but you don't know that yet. By the 50th rejection, you've told almost nobody what you're doing anymore. Not because you're ashamed, because explaining it costs something. Every time you describe the vision to someone new, you spend a little more energy defending it. And you're running low on energy, so you go quiet. You become private in a way that starts to look like defeat from the outside. People stop asking. That's its own kind of loss. By the 17th, you've started doing the math, not the hopeful math, not how many people said yes last year versus this year. The terminal math. How much longer can you sustain this? How long will the money hold out? How long can the relationships around you tolerate a person who keeps pouring themselves into something that keeps getting poured away? By the 85th, you're not rewriting anymore, you're just waiting. And somewhere between 85 and 100, something breaks. Not your body, not your work, you. This is the part they skip in the documentary. This is the gap between the struggle montage and the breakthrough moment. The part that doesn't make good television because there's nothing to watch. No dramatic outburst, no visible crisis. Just a person sitting very still in a room. You sat very still in a room. You looked at everything you'd built. Not with pride, not even with anger, with a flat grey numbness that scared you more than either of those things would have. You thought about stopping, not giving up. That phrase has too much drama in it. Just stopping, quietly, folding it away, telling yourself it was a chapter that ended and not a failure, because that's the story that would let you keep your dignity. You practiced that story, said it out loud a few times to see how it felt. It felt like lying, because you knew underneath the exhaustion, underneath the numbness, underneath the mountain of rejection, you knew the thing you'd made was real. You knew it mattered. You couldn't prove it to anyone. You'd tried that 100 times and proven nothing, but you knew. And that knowing was the problem, because you couldn't put down something you still believed in. You could only carry it until you found out what it cost you, all the way. Until there was nothing left to compromise, nothing left to trim, nothing left to apologize for. The collapse wasn't the end, it was a door, not a door with light behind it. Don't romanticize it. Not a door you could see clearly at all, just an edge. You'd reached the edge of every version of yourself that wasn't fully committed. That was the gift you couldn't name yet. Here is what rejection actually is, not what you've been told, not the motivational version, what it actually is when you strip away the comfort. It's information dressed in cruelty. Every no carries data. Specific, usable, honest data about fit, timing, framing, and sometimes nothing more profound than the limitations of the person reading your work. But here's what nobody teaches you. You don't have to agree with the rejection to learn from it. Those are two different acts. An agreement means accepting the verdict. Learning means extracting the signal from the noise. One destroys you, the other builds you into something the person who sent that first rejection letter couldn't have predicted. You've been treating rejection like a verdict. It isn't. It's a conversation between what you made and the world as it currently is. The world changes. You change what you've made. The conversation shifts. Sometimes 100 no's means 100 wrong doors, not a locked building. The person who accumulated those 100 rejections didn't fail 100 times. They attempted something 100 times. Against resistance, that would have stopped most people at 12. Think about that. 12. Most people don't reach 12, you reached 100. That's not evidence of failure, that's evidence of a specific kind of ferocity, the kind that most people admire when they see it in someone else but refuse to claim for themselves. Claim it. The 100th rejection didn't define the story, it defined the person. And the person who survives 100 no's without abandoning what they believe in, that person is not the same one who sent the first letter. They're unrecognizable, and that's the point. That's the whole point. Stop waiting to feel ready before you move again. You will not feel ready. That feeling is not coming. Readiness is not a state you reach. It's a decision you make while still being afraid. So make the decision. But do it differently now. Not with less fire, with more precision. Go back to the thing you built, not the version you watered down, not the version you softened to make it easier for people who didn't understand it. The original, the one that felt true before anyone had a chance to say no. Start there. Look at it without your wounds. Ask yourself one specific question. What is one thing I never changed because I was afraid to, even when I knew it needed changing? Not for them. For the work. Find that thing. Change it. Then look at the 100 rejections. Not to wallow, to study. Find the 3 that gave you actual feedback, not just a no. 3 responses that pointed at something specific. Read them again, not for the verdict, for the data. Write down what the data says. Now do this. Identify exactly who said yes, even once, even partially, even in a small way. One person, one conversation, one moment when someone's eyes changed, because what you shared reached them. Build from that, not from the 100 doors that closed, from the one thing that connected. Your job right now is not to chase validation in new directions. Your job is to narrow, to sharpen, to become so specific about who needs what. You've made that rejection from the wrong audience. Stop feeling like failure and start feeling like direction. Stop sending your work to everyone. Send it to the one person who would lose something real if they didn't encounter it. Write for that person. Build for that person. Pitch for that person. And when you do, you'll send it again, immediately. Don't let the momentum die in a gap. The gap is where fear lives. The gap is where you'll talk yourself out of it. Send it before the fear finishes its sentence. Then do it again, and again. Not 100 times into the void, 100 times more deliberately than before. There is a profound difference. Learn it. Live it. The work deserves that version of you. Then this happened. The door opened. Not because luck shifted. Not because the world became suddenly generous. Because you had become someone the door couldn't keep out anymore. The person who walked through that door was forged, tested in a specific way. A person who was accepted on the first try simply isn't. There was a depth to what you carried, a knowledge of what the work had cost, a rootedness in the belief that no external voice had been able to uproot. And God knows enough of them tried. You didn't become successful despite the rejections. You became yourself because of them. Every now and then you carve something away that didn't belong on you anyway. The version of you that received the 100th rejection and didn't quit. That person is extraordinary, not for the outcome, for the decision, for the fact that you chose, on the quietest and hardest day, to still believe in what you couldn't yet prove. And the world finally answered, not loudly, not all at once, but it answered, and you were ready, because you never stopped standing at the door. You never stopped standing at the door